This wasn't just a debate. It was a complete verbal demolition on live TV. Hollywood legend Robert De Niro tried to go toe-to-toe with Karoline Leavitt. And what happened next? Nobody saw coming. Stay tuned, because this moment has the internet absolutely on fire. It all started as what should have been just another routine TV segment. A typical split-screen discussion, a few talking points, maybe even some polite disagreement. On one side of the screen, Robert De Niro, the legendary actor with a career spanning decades, 2 Academy Awards, and a reputation for unleashing fiery political rants, especially against former President Donald Trump. On the other side, Karoline Leavitt, a sharp, articulate, and rising conservative figure, former Trump White House staffer, and one of the youngest voices in the GOP political arena. She's been gaining traction as a bold, unfiltered communicator unafraid to take on establishment figures. No one expected the two to agree, but no one was ready for what actually happened. De Niro was initially booked to promote his latest film. Viewers tuned in expecting a blend of entertainment and maybe a touch of politics. The usual fare when a Hollywood A-lister hits the daytime or primetime circuit. But from the moment Karoline Leavitt joined the panel, the energy shifted dramatically as the conversation began. The host tried to steer it toward safe ground: De Niro's new movie, his acting legacy, and current events. But it didn't take long for the actor to veer off course. Within minutes, he launched into a familiar tirade. With the same fire he once used to command the screen, De Niro declared, "Trump and his followers are destroying democracy. People, like Karoline, are spreading dangerous rhetoric." It wasn't a surprise to those familiar with De Niro's politics. For years, he's made headlines with harsh criticism of Trump and the conservative movement. But what made this moment different was what came next. Karoline didn't flinch. She didn't smirk. She didn't roll her eyes. She simply waited for him to finish and delivered a calm, collected, but absolutely devastating response. With the composure of a seasoned pro and the precision of someone who came prepared, she leaned into the camera and said, "Robert, I appreciate your passion, but let's get real. You're an actor, not a political strategist. You might be used to reading from scripts, but this isn't a movie set. This is real life. And Americans are tired of being told how to think by Hollywood elites." Boom. The silence in the studio was deafening. For a moment, even De Niro seemed taken aback. That line, just one of many in what would become a jaw-dropping back and forth, was the spark that ignited an internet firestorm. Viewers at home couldn't believe what they were seeing. Live debates on TV are usually filled with political jargon and rehearsed sound bites. But this was raw. This was real. This was 2 cultural forces going head-to-head in a way that was impossible to ignore. And it wasn't just that Karoline stood up to De Niro. It was how she did it. While the actor's tone grew increasingly emotional, even confrontational, Leavitt remained composed, confident, and pointed. She countered his claims with statistics, challenged his assumptions with facts, and, most importantly, kept her cool as De Niro's frustration became more visible by the second. By the midpoint of the segment, it was clear this was no longer just a political debate. It had become a cultural moment. Viewers were glued to their screens. Social media lit up in real time. Twitter hashtags like LeavittTV's De Niro, Hollywood Meltdown, and Karoline Claps Back started trending. Within an hour, clips of the exchange had racked up hundreds of thousands of views on platforms like X, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. But perhaps the most telling part of the showdown? The body language. As De Niro raised his voice, waved his hands, and doubled down on his usual anti-Trump lines, Karoline sat firm, unwavering. She didn't backtrack, didn't apologize, and didn't let herself be bullied into silence. At one point, she even said, "You talk about threats to democracy, but free speech is part of democracy. And last time I checked, disagreeing with Hollywood isn't a crime, it's a right." That one sentence, clean, powerful, and undeniably true, summed up the moment perfectly. She wasn't just taking on De Niro, she was channeling the frustration of millions of Americans who feel talked down to by celebrities with platforms bigger than their understanding of policy. By the time the segment ended, it was clear something significant had just happened. Not just a disagreement, but a defining media moment that would reverberate far beyond the studio walls. And the internet? It had already made up its mind. Karoline Leavitt didn't just hold her own, she dominated. This was the moment everything changed. Millions tuned in expecting the usual scripted TV banter. But instead, they witnessed what would become one of the most talked about live television moments of the year, a fiery clash that exploded across social media within minutes. The match was lit when Robert De Niro, never one to hold back politically, turned the interview from a routine chat about his latest film into a full-blown political assault. Sitting in his signature stern posture with the gravitas of someone used to commanding attention, De Niro looked into the camera and declared in his unmistakable tone, "Trump and his people are dangerous for democracy." The words hit hard, not because they were new, but because of how he said them, with the conviction of a courtroom closing argument and the flair of a seasoned performer. But what De Niro didn't expect was the immediate clapback. Enter Karoline Leavitt. Without missing a beat, without a blink of hesitation, she leaned forward slightly, smiled politely, and said, "Robert, with all due respect, you're an actor, not a political analyst. You may have memorized scripts your whole life, but this isn't Hollywood. This is real life." Boom. It was a mic drop moment. The studio went quiet. The host's eyes widened. You could practically hear a pin drop between the stunned silence and the flicker of gasps from the off-screen crew. No one expected her to go toe-to-toe with a Hollywood icon, and certainly not with that kind of precision and poise. But she wasn't finished. What followed was a blistering back-and-forth exchange that felt less like a political debate and more like a battle for narrative control in real time. It was a head-on collision between celebrity activism and rising conservative defiance, and Karoline Leavitt held nothing back. De Niro, caught off guard, tried to reassert dominance. He scoffed, waved her off, and snapped, "You're young. You're naive. You don't understand the threat." But Karoline was ready. Calm, clear, and laser-focused, she fired back. "What I understand is that Americans are tired of being told how to think by celebrities who live behind gates and fly private jets while lecturing the rest of us about threats to democracy." Social media erupted, even as De Niro grew more animated, interrupting, gesturing, his voice rising. Karoline didn't waver. She began to break down his points one by one, turning his dramatic accusations into opportunities to highlight conservative talking points. He railed about Trump's rhetoric. She responded with polling numbers showing growing disillusionment. With the Biden administration, he claimed the country was teetering on fascism. She shot back with examples of censorship, media bias, and government overreach. He tried to dismiss her with, "I've seen more of the world than you ever will," she answered. "And I've seen what's happening in this country, at the gas pump, in the grocery store, and in our schools. That's what Americans care about, not red carpet politics." With every exchange, De Niro became more flustered, while Karoline became more confident. She didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't throw personal insults. She relied on clarity, conviction, and a calm delivery that made her words hit even harder. Online, the reaction was immediate. Clips began circulating with captions like, "Karoline Leavitt destroys De Niro in 10 seconds flat. When reality hits Hollywood, this is how you handle a smug celebrity." In the comment sections, it wasn't just conservatives cheering her on. Many independents and even apolitical viewers praised her for standing firm and speaking with clarity. One viral comment read, "I don't care what side you're on, this was a straight-up power move. De Niro came with drama, she came with facts." De Niro, for all his star power, looked increasingly out of place as the conversation unfolded. What began as a passionate critique of Trump turned into a defensive, borderline chaotic attempt to regain control of the narrative. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt had essentially taken over the conversation and the internet. This wasn't just an exchange. It was a generational and cultural face-off between old-school celebrity politics and a new wave of bold, media-savvy conservative voices. And it became painfully clear to millions watching that De Niro had underestimated his opponent. By the end of the segment, De Niro looked visibly irritated, while Karoline remained poised, almost as if she knew this moment would go viral. Spoiler alert, it did. In the hours that followed, reaction videos, memes, and commentary flooded every platform. TikToks of the exchange pulled in millions of views. Twitter X users crowned Karoline Queen of the Clapback. YouTube thumbnails lit up with bold titles like De Niro Destroyed Live and Hollywood versus Reality. And just like that, what began as a simple interview turned into a defining viral moment, one that may mark a new chapter in the cultural conversation around fame, politics, and who really speaks for the people. And then, things got wild. Up. Until that point, it was tense, sure. Heated? Absolutely. But still within the bounds of a spirited debate. That changed the moment Karoline Leavitt hit her stride. With each calm, calculated point she made, Robert De Niro's composure began to unravel. The man known for playing cool, commanding roles, Vito Corleone, Travis Bickle, Jake LaMotta, was suddenly on the ropes in real life. His body language gave it away first. The tapping fingers, the furrowed brow, the shifting in his chair. And then it happened. Red in the face, visibly agitated, De Niro burst out. "People like you are part of the problem." It wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it. His voice cracked. His hands flew up. It was no longer the voice of a dignified screen legend. It was frustration, raw and unfiltered, broadcast live to millions. But Karoline, she didn't even blink. With the kind of calm that makes a moment legendary, she looked him dead in the eye and delivered the line that would light up every corner of the internet. "People like me are tired of being lectured by millionaire actors who live in gated mansions while middle-class Americans struggle." Boom! Silence. Not the awkward kind, but the stunned kind. The kind of silence that hangs in the air right after a thunderclap. Even the host sat back, eyes wide, unsure whether to jump in or just let it play out. The power of that one sentence? It summed up everything so many Americans feel but rarely hear said so boldly, and on national TV no less. It was a perfect storm of authenticity, timing, and guts. And then, almost instantly, the internet exploded. Social media platforms lit up like wildfire. Clips of the moment, Leavitt calmly delivering her now famous line while De Niro raged, were being cut, captioned, and uploaded within minutes. Twitter, now X, was the first to feel it. The hashtags came fast and hard. Karoline Leavitt, De Niro, Meltdown, Hollywood vs. Reality, TV Showdown. The clip spread to TikTok, where users began remixing the moment with dramatic music, reaction faces, and even movie-style voiceovers. One viral TikTok added the Mortal Kombat fatality sound effect right after Karoline's line. Another mashed the clip with the caption, "When an actress forgets she's not in a movie." YouTube reaction channels flooded in. Political commentators, comedians, even our political influencers jumped on the trend. Some made memes, others made breakdown videos. One popular YouTuber titled their reaction, "Karoline Leavitt just ended. Robert De Niro's political career, live." And it wasn't just political audiences watching. People who don't follow politics at all, gamers, lifestyle vloggers, even beauty influencers, started reposting the clip with their own takes. Why? Because the drama was just that gripping. It wasn't just a political moment. It was a viral cultural moment. A real-life movie plot playing out unscripted in real time. The contrast was impossible to ignore. De Niro, the wealthy, world-famous celebrity, shouting, flailing, emotionally overwhelmed, and Karoline Leavitt, young, focused, calm, dropping truth bombs with a smile. The internet picked a winner fast. In thousands of comment sections, one sentiment echoed over and over. She kept her cool. He lost it. That tells you everything. By the end of the day, the clip had amassed millions of views across platforms. Conservative voices praised Leavitt as the future of the movement. Independents said she spoke like a grown-up in a room full of egos. Even some liberal-leaning viewers admitted De Niro had gone too far, and as the reaction kept snowballing, the moment transformed from a newsworthy exchange to a meme-worthy media event. News outlets began picking it up. Headlines read, "Karoline Leavitt shuts down Robert De Niro on live TV. TV clash turns viral. De Niro rages. Leavitt goes viral. Celebrity versus citizen, the line that broke the internet." But perhaps the most important impact, this wasn't a scripted debate. This wasn't a PR stunt. This was real. A collision between two opposing worlds, celebrity elitism versus grassroots authenticity, and the underdog won the crowd. Karoline Leavitt didn't just argue her case. She owned the moment. And as De Niro's meltdown became meme material, Karoline's star kept rising, fueled by every repost, every remix, and every jaw that dropped during that unforgettable exchange. If there's one thing the internet absolutely loves, it's an unexpected takedown, especially when it's live, unfiltered, and real. And in this case, Karoline Leavitt gave them exactly that. It wasn't just a good comeback. It wasn't just a sharp exchange. This was one of those once-in-a-blue-moon moments where someone stands up against a cultural giant and wins. After the clip aired, the reaction was instantaneous. On YouTube, within just a few hours, multiple uploads of the clip began pulling in millions of views. Political commentary channels jumped on it immediately, uploading titles like De Niro melts, Down gets schooled by Karoline Leavitt, Calm versus chaos, Leavitt leaves, De Niro speechless. This might be the moment that redefined TV debates. But it didn't stop at political circles. Influencers across the spectrum, left, right, and in between, chimed in. The appeal wasn't just in the politics. It was the drama, the unexpected twist, and the sheer contrast in composure. Some conservative creators dubbed her a rising conservative queen and the future of the GOP. They praised her for staying cool under pressure and speaking with clarity and authority, especially in the face of someone as loud and iconic as Robert De Niro. Meanwhile, even some non-political or left-leaning commentators found themselves criticizing De Niro's behavior. Words like unhinged, emotional, and out of touch started circulating. While some defended his passion, many admitted that Leavitt's demeanor simply outclassed him. And then came the comedians. Late night, talk shows, TikTok sketch artists, and YouTube comedy creators had a field day. One popular skit showed an actor dressed like De Niro flailing and yelling, while another portrayed Karoline sipping tea, delivering her lines with a smirk and perfect comedic timing. Side-by-side edits of the segment went viral, one side showing De Niro's escalating frustration, the other highlighting Leavitt's calm, controlled responses. The contrast was cinematic. Honestly, it looked more like a scene from an HBO drama than a real political interview. But here's the kicker. This wasn't scripted. This was real, and people loved it. Memes exploded across platforms. One widely shared meme featured the caption, "When the boomer rages but Gen Z brings the receipts." Another showed Karoline photoshopped with sunglasses and pixelated "Deal with it" text as she dropped her now famous line about millionaire actors and middle-class Americans. The phrase, "Karoline Leavitt didn't even raise her voice," became a talking point all on its own. Commentators praised her for never losing her cool. No yelling, no personal insults, no flailing. Just cold, hard facts delivered with poise. And that made her even more powerful. In today's media culture, especially on platforms like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, how you say something is often just as important as what you say. And Karoline Leavitt's ability to stay grounded, confident, and articulate in the face of A celebrity tirade resonated deeply with viewers. In the comment sections, fans wrote things like, "She destroyed him without breaking a sweat." This is how you debate facts, not feelings. De Niro brought Hollywood. Karoline brought reality. Even those who weren't fans of her politics respected her performance. One viral comment said, "I disagree with her politically, but she held herself like a pro." De Niro looked like a guy yelling at clouds. Suddenly, Karoline Leavitt wasn't just a political spokesperson. She was a viral sensation. Her follower count across platforms skyrocketed. Media outlets began covering her beyond politics, diving into who she was, where she came from, and how she had managed to take over the internet in a single interview. And make no mistake, this wasn't just a trending topic. This was a cultural flashpoint. It tapped into bigger issues people are frustrated about. The elitism of celebrity politics, the disconnect between Hollywood and real life, and the desire to see young, grounded voices challenge the status quo. Leavitt had managed to become a symbol of something much larger than a debate. She represented the average American pushing back against the noise, against the virtue signaling, and against the idea that only celebrities get to define what's right or wrong. And De Niro, for all his fame, for all his roles, for all his Oscars, he walked away from that interview not as the wise elder statesman of Hollywood, but as the man who got out-debated by someone half his age. It's rare that one moment shifts the internet's focus so powerfully. But this wasn't just TV. This was a live, unscripted shift in narrative. A moment that made people rethink who really owns the microphone in today's political and cultural conversation. And Karoline Leavitt, she didn't just take the mic. She owned the stage. This wasn't just a fiery TV spat. It was a flashpoint in a much larger national conversation, a symbol of the cultural tension brewing beneath the surface in modern America. On one side of the screen sat Robert De Niro, a Hollywood icon, a multi-millionaire actor, and a man who's used his platform for years to voice his political views. He's respected for his work on the big screen, no doubt. But when he speaks politically, it often feels like he's preaching to a choir that stopped listening. On the other side sat Karoline Leavitt, young, bold, and sharp. Not a celebrity, not a household name, but in one moment, live on national TV. She broke through the static and made herself impossible to ignore. And that's what made this so powerful. This moment wasn't just about an argument. It was about what each person represented. De Niro, intentionally or not, stood in for the elite class. People with massive influence who often assume their fame translates into moral or intellectual superiority. We've seen it before. Celebrities using award shows, interviews, and talk shows to deliver political sermons that feel disconnected from everyday people. But Karoline, she was the opposite. She didn't rely on status or celebrity. She didn't need a script. What she brought was confidence, clarity, and conviction. And more importantly, she spoke with a tone that resonated with millions of Americans who feel ignored, mocked, or dismissed by the people who run the media, politics, and Hollywood. That's why her line, "People like me are tired of being lectured by millionaire actors," landed like a thunderclap. It wasn't just a clapback. It was a mirror held up to the screen, showing how out of touch much of our elite culture has become. This moment caught fire because it tapped into something real and raw, a growing frustration in America with political gatekeeping, media bias, and celebrity entitlement. In a world where mainstream media often seems filtered through one worldview, and where social media algorithms amplify outrage but silence dissent, a moment like this, unscripted, unfiltered, and undeniably real, breaks through like lightning. And Karoline didn't just win the argument. She changed the narrative. In an age of carefully crafted talking points and stage-managed interviews, authenticity is rare and priceless. And Leavitt's authenticity, even in the face of a raging Hollywood legend, gave her something no PR firm can manufacture: credibility. Even those who disagreed with her politics had to admit she made an impact. And in today's hyper-digital, attention-driven age, impact is everything. It builds audiences. It builds influence. And when played right, it builds movements. Karoline Leavitt's viral moment might just be the beginning. Whether she's destined for cable news, political office, or something else entirely, one thing is clear. She knows how to hold her ground. She knows how to turn pressure into presence. And most of all, she knows how to speak to people who feel they've been left out of the conversation for too long. She didn't need a stage. She made the stage hers. As for Robert De Niro, the internet wasn't kind. The reaction wasn't just negative, it was brutal. Comment sections, reaction videos, and news articles painted a picture of a man who had underestimated his opponent. Someone who thought passion alone could win a debate, only to be met with cold, collected facts. Memes mocked his expressions. Sound bites of him yelling were spliced into comedy sketches. The phrase, De Niro meltdown, trended for days. It was a tough look for one of Hollywood's most respected figures. But perhaps the harshest judgment came not from critics, but from the average viewer. People who tuned in, expecting a routine debate and left saying, "Wow." She didn't just survive. She dominated. In the end, what this moment revealed was bigger than any single person or soundbite. It showed that the public is hungry for authenticity. That influence isn't about how famous you are. It's about how effectively you can connect. That people are tired of being told what to think by people who have no idea how they live. Karoline Leavitt, in just a few minutes of airtime, tapped into that hunger. And that's what makes her a force to watch. Whether you agree with her or not, this wasn't just a viral moment. It was a signal. The cultural tides are shifting and new voices are rising, not because they're loud, but because they're real. And in today's America, real is revolutionary.
If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more viral moments, truth bombs, and no-nonsense takes, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this. Drop a comment below. What did
You think of the Karoline versus De Niro showdown? Was this a turning point or just another TV clash? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.